Welcome, everybody. Hi, my name is Peter van der Voorde. You can call me Peter, you can call me Pierre, Pedro, Piotr, I don't care. Welcome to the Code and Beyond track. Let me tell you a story first. Once upon a time, there were 3 little tracks. 2 of them went well, 1 got a problem. We apologize for the delays. We apologize for switching one of the talks. So Diego's talk that was supposed to be happening here earlier is being moved to tomorrow morning at 9. So if you want to see it tomorrow morning at 9, it's going to be in the room next door. Now up, Ralph Whitbeck. Ralph is an Indiana Jones fan. He loves Lego, but I wasn't supposed to say that. And he's going to talk about how you have to choose wisely when extending Atlassian products. Before I welcome on stage, I do want to make a couple of remarks. First, please turn off your cell phone, or at least make it quiet so you can still tweet about it, you can take notes, but make sure it doesn't ring. Second, download the Atlassian Summit app. It's the Atlassian Events app on Android and on Android Play and on the iStore. Download it and rate every single session. We read your feedback. We want to give our speakers as much feedback as they can, and we want to use your feedback to improve Atlas Camp every single year. And for the rest, enjoy the track. Here's Ralph.
Thanks, Peter. One last thing he didn't announce here is at the keynote this morning, Shri said Fire Pit Room was sign up. It's actually just first come, first let in. So there's no sign up for that. Extending Atlassian products. Okay, one of the most popular ways to extend an Atlassian product is through the marketplace. But when the marketplace can't provide the functionality you need, most developers look to extend the product themselves. Extending an Atlassian product can mean something different to each and one of us sitting here today. It can range from something like building a simple script for automating a task to building an entire software company on top of an Atlassian product. Let's take a look at 3 different ways to extend Atlassian products. The first way is by building an app. Now, an app is a program developed with the intent to run inside the product UI. These could be simple things like providing a status update on Jira tickets to elaborate programs that provide analyze insights into your Jira project. Building an app is a great way to extend the product directly. It's like building a whole other feature right inside of Jira or Confluence. Now, apps can be shared for free, or you can charge for your app on the Atlassian Marketplace, and you can also have private apps that are only available to those who want to have access to. Many companies have been built because of the apps that they created and listed on the Atlassian Marketplace. Now, an integration is a way to tie 2 systems together with the creative use of Atlassian REST APIs. Now, building an integration outside of Atlassian products is an easy way to provide more value to your users that are also customers of Atlassian. Now, a common use case of an integration is providing a button to easily create a Jira issue right inside of your product. Your users can stay right in your product as they won't need to navigate to Jira to create an issue. Now, another common use case is the ability to create a new Confluence page or report with the data that you've collected right in your product. Again, without your users leaving to create the page. And finally, customization. System admins or advanced power users can use Atlassian REST APIs and a simple scripting language to build customized automation tools that allow them to be more efficient with Atlassian products. Now, for instance, let's take an example of a new employee that starts at your company. Now, that employee usually has a few to very many tasks for onboarding to do when they start. So, which you are probably managing in Jira. So creating all those Jira issues, it can be very time-consuming, but with a little scripting magic, this can be handled with ease. Now, each of these ways of extending Atlassian products takes you in a different development journey and require you to make some choices as you navigate each path. Now, as a developer advocate, I've been in countless conversations with developers and companies looking to extend Atlassian products. And to these developers, the choices are overwhelming and usually require a conversation to get them on the right path. Now, if you visited our developer documentation site, You may have noticed that we don't necessarily separate out based on how you would want to extend our products. We have guides, we have reference materials, we even have getting started guides. However, we don't do the best job in guiding you in which path to choose. So in this talk, we're going to walk through the path together and discuss the options at each choice. All right. Since we're short in time in this talk, we're going to scope this conversation just to Jira and Confluence. And as you start on your development journey, you'll have 4 key decision points that you'll need to understand in order to choose wisely. You'll need to understand and decide on the deployment option to develop against. Next are the multiple product types. So which are you going to target? Do you need to build an app, or will the REST APIs work for you? And if you're going to use the REST APIs, what is the best authentication method to make requests to the Atlassian product? So let's start by exploring the deployment options. As will be the case at each decision point, you must choose, but choose wisely. For both Jira and Confluence, there are 3 deployment options: cloud, server, and data center. Now, since server and data center are similar in this context, we're just going to consider cloud and server as the only 2 options for deployment in this talk. Let's compare the 2 deployment options. First, let's look at hosting. With server, the customer hosts the product on their infrastructure, whereas for cloud, Atlassian is hosting the product. Now, with cloud, next, what are the available APIs? Now, with server, developer can use both Java APIs as well as REST APIs. In addition, the developer can have access to directly. The developer can have access to directly integrate with the product and utilize private APIs. Now, with cloud, developers are only able to access the REST APIs. What about connectivity? Now, with server, it's most likely that the server is behind a firewall with no or limited access to the internet, while cloud is fully connected. So by understanding how each deployment method is deployed, this can help influence the choice that you make. Next, let's take a look at how each deployment option differs when creating an app. As I mentioned before, apps can extend the product UI. So it may not be a surprise that you can extend UI in both server and cloud. However, the way you extend UI differs. With server, you need to use the Plugins 2 framework. And with cloud, you use the Atlassian Connect framework. Both are vastly different in how you build an app. How do you run an app? Now, in server, the customer installs the app from the marketplace by downloading and installing a jar file and is ran directly in the hosted product. With cloud, the vendor hosts and operates the app on a server that they control, similar to a microservice. The installation of the app, again, through the marketplace is done by reading a descriptor file that allows the product to understand how to communicate with the vendor-hosted app. No third-party code is run with the cloud product. Which programming language do you need to use? Well, with server, you need to write the code in Java, which is the same as the product. Whereas for code, you can use your preferred technology stack. Finally, supporting your app. With server, customers are running various versions of Atlassian products. This means that your app needs to support multiple versions as well. With cloud, you only need to support one version, and that is the version that is running on the Atlassian product, on Atlassian servers. All right, let's move on to the next decision point, product type. Again, you must choose, but choose wisely. Thankfully, this choice isn't as hard as the deployment option. The only product that has multiple types is Jira. Jira Core, Jira Software, and Jira Service Desk. So you only need to determine which product type you want to target. Hopefully, this is obvious to you. If not, you may need to learn a little bit more about what each product type offers. But one note about the APIs. Jira Core contains the core APIs for all product types. So if you target Jira Software, you'd utilize the APIs for Jira Core as well as the specific APIs for Jira Software. Similarly, for JSD, or Jira Service Desk, you'd utilize the APIs for Jira Core as well as Jira Service Desk. Now, this is the same if you choose to build an app or just utilize the APIs. Speaking of app or API, that is our next decision point. And again, you must choose, but choose wisely. Let's compare the benefits of building an app versus just utilizing the REST APIs. The first consideration is the availability to distribute what you've built. Now, with an app, you can easily list your app so that your users can discover, try, install, and buy right in the marketplace. You can list your app as private, public, or free, or as a paid app that you charge for. Now, with APIs, you wouldn't need to distribute, as you can integrate the calls to the API right in your product or service, and does not need to list in the marketplace. Although, the marketplace does allow you to list REST API-only apps. Next, let's take a look at how a user would set up an app or an API. Now, with an app, a user can easily install via the marketplace by simply clicking on an install button. All of the authorization is handled during installation. Now, with APIs, an admin would need to set up and provide access tokens, or a user would provide the credentials to access the methods available through the REST APIs. There are differences in authentication and scope. So with an app, you can define what level of access or scope the app has to the data in the Atlassian product. For instance, you can grant just read access, or you can grant admin access based on the needs of the app. Now with APIs, they only have the same access as the user accessing it. And finally, as I stated before, an app can extend the UI of the Atlassian product, such that you can analyze data from the Atlassian product and display the results right in the UI through specifically located web views. Now with APIs, you don't have access to the special web views in the product, and you can only update the data in the ticket itself. So any display of information will happen outside of the Atlassian product. On to our last decision. And this is only a decision if we've chosen to utilize the APIs. And this is probably the most important choice, as again, you must choose, but choose wisely. So what are we choosing, though? Well, we need to choose how to authenticate our request to the Atlassian product. And our first option is simple, basic authentication. Now, basic authentication is an authentication method where the user provides their credentials to access the REST APIs. So, username and password. Although in cloud, you don't need to use a password. You need to request an API token with your Atlassian ID. So you would choose this method if you're a system admin or a power user building scripts to automate or make tasks easier to complete. Next to consider is OAuth 1.0a. Now, if you're building an integration, you'd want to choose OAuth 1.0a. With this option, you as a developer would not need to handle storing username or passwords. Instead, you would guide the admin of the Atlassian product to create a set of tokens and provide that to you. This allows you to store information that can't easily be compromised and allows the admin to revoke those credentials if the need arises. One advantage with using APIs in OAuth 1.0a is that this is available in both cloud and server. Many integrations are built to be cross-deployment with this choice. However, a word of caution. Although the APIs are similar in both cloud and server today, we can't guarantee that the APIs won't diverge in the future, and just something to consider if you're looking to build a cross-deployment integration. And finally, our newest option is OAuth 2, Authenticated Code Grants. Now, we just announced the general availability of this authentication type for developers to use, and it is currently only available in Jira Cloud. However, the benefits of this authentication type are through the ease of which a user can authenticate their Jira instance with your integration. Instead of copying and pasting tokens, they only need to provide consent to provide access. And this authentication type will vastly improve the customer experience in setting up an integration. Let's explore a few development scenarios and think about them from the key decisions we just went over. In our first scenario, you have a great idea for Jira and feel like other customers would get value from this idea you want to build. Now first, does this make sense for server, cloud, or both? And since we're dealing with Jira, what product type are we targeting? Jira Core, Jira Software, Jira Service Desk? And do we want to build an app or use the APIs? In this case, we probably want to build an app. Based on our deployment choice, that will dictate what programming language, as well as what app framework to use to build our app. And based on the product type we choose, that will dictate the extension points that are available to us. So now we know we have a better understanding of which path to choose in our development journey. Our next scenario, the create an issue integration, is probably the most popular way to integrate your service with Jira. Again, does this make sense for both server, cloud, or both? And since we're dealing with Jira, what product type are we dealing with? Jira Core, Jira Software, Jira Service Desk. And do we want to build an app or use the APIs? Now, since we're dealing outside of an Atlassian product, we'll want to use the REST APIs. So the next choice, which authentication method do we use? Well, we wouldn't want to use basic because we don't want to store usernames and passwords. Now, if we're only dealing with cloud, we could choose the new OAuth 2.0 authenticated code grounds. If only server, or we want to target both cloud and server, then the choice would be OAuth 1.0a. Again, this helps us understand our development journey ahead of us. And in our final scenario, what if you want to build a script to automate creating certain tasks? For the sake of using Confluence, let's say we want to create a page that has all of the tasks outlined. Again, does this make sense for server, cloud, or both? We're not dealing with Jira, so we don't need to decide on a product type. Do we want to build an app or use the APIs? Well, we could do both. You could build a private app that you could share with your coworkers, or you could use the API and just build a simple shell script to handle the tasks. Now, if we choose utilizing APIs, which authentication method should we use? Well, since this is a script that would be run by you or a trusted coworker, using basic authentication is probably the easiest path. Hopefully this talk is helpful in helping you start your development journey in extending Atlassian products and allows you to more easily find the information that you're looking for in our development documentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Ralph. I'm sure we're all going to be choosing wisely. Don't forget, download the mobile app, rate his talk, so he can get feedback, and we get feedback about Atlas Camp. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in 10 minutes for the next one.
Thank you.